have the necessary skills and capabilities to be successful in life, part of that is being healthy. Now, if you think about healthy lifestyles and you think about how intimately connected it is to issues such as positive parenting, our view has been that in order to get parents interested in doing things that will specifically promote healthy nutrition and physical activity, it is best when it's blended with an approach around just parenting your children well and redefining what positive parenting is to make sure that when we articulate principles such as kids are going to do best if they're living in a safe and engaging environment, it should be a safe, engaging and healthy environment. And so part of that healthy environment is the family home and the way in which families organise the whole issue around meal times, the level of physical activity, the level of sedentary activity that's taking place in people's homes.
There's so many factors involved here, though, and I'm very keen in a moment to talk to Barry about this, to Dr. Taylor about this, because when we look at the obesity epidemic, if that's what we're talking about, I'm presuming we're not wanting kids getting worried about their puppy fat, or, that is something that really sort of sets people off, I think. If we are talking about the obesity epidemic and its impact at certain ages on young people, we're learning more, including about the epidemiology role of the role of epigenetics. I beg your pardon. The role that some of this may be genetic, the role of some of this may be related to what's happened in the womb. And again, how do you approach the whole question in a responsible way and making sure that the right factors are being identified? Matt, that is to you in the first instance.
Look, I think you've raised a very good point, because these problems are determined by the interaction of lots of different factors. However, what I would say is this, is that when it comes to looking at what parents in their parenting role are able to influence and control, what is needed is an activation of a protective response towards children so that adults are aware that you avoid creating situations that cause harm to children. You keep kids in safe environments. You ensure that they have a healthy lifestyle. It's an active lifestyle. And that it's you can only get parents to do things about those things that parents, in fact, can control. They can't actually control, the design of supermarkets. They can't control advertising. However, we can have parents who are informed consumers, and we can have parents who are knowledgeable and skillful about those things that they can do to ensure their kids are as healthy as possible.
What are those? Because they're two different things. The ensure word is a hard word because there's at least two people involved in this equation. One is the parent or the caregiver, and the other is the child. What you're talking about specifically at this moment is what we might call lifestyle factors, which is sufficient exercise, right, or sufficient physical activity, and also, in general, trying to achieve what will be dubbed a healthy and a balanced nutrition. So what are the skills involved in that? Because every parent knows sometimes all a child wants to do is eat M&Ms, and, there is, as I said, there's two different individuals at least involved here. So when you come from trying to impart the lifestyle skills, what's the advice that you give?
Well, there's actually more than two people involved, of course, because
Australian entertainer Rolf Harris has retired to consider its verdict on sexual assault
Ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, would you please take your seats? The Prime Minister is on his way.
Kia ora. Welcome everybody. Great to see you all here today, especially the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Bill English, and Stephen Joyce, Paula Bennett, and of course the media. And I'm told there's somewhere more than 30 media in the room, so don't slurp your soup. I'm Andrew Aiken, President of the Rotary Club of Auckland, and we're your hosts for today. Also in the room, though, we have members and guests from many other Rotary clubs, particularly the Downtown Rotary Club, Auckland East, Auckland Harbourside, Ellerslie Sunrise, Newmarket, Pakuranga and Remuera. We also have in the room District Governor Roger Harvey and Mrs Harvey. So again, welcome and thank you all for coming. A little bit of housekeeping. Oh, well, yes. A little bit of housekeeping. In the event of an emergency, the exit doors are labelled. The bathrooms are straight out the way you came in and in the hallway on the left. And if you are thirsty and you empty the wine that's available to you, there is a cash bar out the door on my right. So please feel free to help yourself. So you'll know what's going on today. The program for the next hour and a half kind of runs, we have an introduction of the Prime Minister. We then move straight to Prime Minister Bill English giving us his first ever State of the Nation speech. This is followed by a thank you to the Prime Minister, and that time he will leave us and head to the media room to answer questions. Unfortunately, that doesn't leave a whole lot of opportunity for us to ask questions, but that's the way it goes. We'll then have lunch and the Prime Minister will rejoin us. After lunch we have some serious entertainment, starting with a Rotary Sergeant session. No obligation for you to contribute, but we are a fundraising organisation. And then there's an auction for some very, very special wine run by a very talented auctioneer, so that's got to be fun. All money raised goes towards sponsoring young people going through the Rotary Youth Leadership Program. After all, they are our future. We expect to finish around 1:45 to 2 o'clock. So we'll get started right away. Jackie Benseman, a Rotary Diamond Paul Harris Fellow and Managing Director of Argus Fire, who are sponsoring Jackie today, will be introducing our keynote speaker. Please join me in welcoming Jackie to the stage.
Thank you, Andrew. So, Right Honourable Bill English is the 39th Prime Minister of New Zealand, taking on the role in December 2016 from his role as Deputy Prime Minister, which he has held since 2008. Elected to Parliament in 1990 as MP for the Wallace electorate, later renamed the Clutha Southland electorate, he served as a local MP for 24 years until becoming a list MP in 2014. During those years, he has held ministerial posts in regulatory reform, education, health, revenue and housing, providing a wide and inclusive range of expertise for his current role. In his earlier years, Bill's ability to hold his own behind a microphone was honed, I believe, as a member of the St Pat's Silverstream debating team. Clearly standing out among raucous boarding house audiences was an apt training ground for his successful parliamentary career. He completed a Bachelor of Commerce degree at Otago University, followed by a Bachelor of Arts with honours in English Literature at Victoria University in Wellington. Bill's wife Mary is a general practitioner and they have 6 adult children. Please welcome to the stage Right Honourable Bill English.
Good afternoon and welcome, and thank you, Jackie, for that warm introduction. My thanks to the Rotary Club of Auckland and in particular President Andrew Aitken and the Rotary team for hosting this event. I want to acknowledge my colleagues, Deputy Prime Minister Paula Bennett and Finance Minister Stephen Joyce, who are with me here today. Both of them have done so much great work in government on behalf of New Zealanders. Special guests, ladies and gentlemen, the start of the year is a time to stand back and look at how we are doing as a country. New Zealand is a fantastic place to live, to work and to raise a family. We aren't the only ones who think so. There are around 200 countries in the world. Of these, New Zealand is currently ranked first for overall prosperity, first for personal freedom and civil rights, First for ease of doing business, first equal for anti-corruption, and second for quality of government, and we're going to turn that into first. As any Kiwi would say, that's pretty good. We are also a respected participant in international affairs. A few weeks ago, I returned from meeting leaders of the European Union, Germany and the UK. I wanted to lock in agreement with the EU to proceed with a free trade agreement and get a commitment from the United Kingdom to negotiate a free trade agreement with New Zealand when they have left Europe. I'm pleased to say we received a positive hearing on both of those issues, but those talks look pretty straightforward compared to the complexities and tensions that those leaders see building up in world politics. A newly assertive Russia and China, the ongoing refugee pressures around the Mediterranean, Brexit, a new US president, and rising nationalism. All the political leaders I met were focused on these developments because their long-held assumptions about how the world works are being tested every day. Now, some people believe that New Zealand's location protects us from the most immediate effects. But in time, in fact, the decisions made in Washington, Berlin, Moscow and London will wash up on our shores. When our values and directions are being tested, we should remember our own history, because it shows we've developed a successful recipe for New Zealand over many years as a small, open economy, and we can hold true to our values. This should allow us to face international challenges with confidence. Confidence in our resilience, confidence in our ability to adapt, and confidence in our place in the world. Because we have forged a distinctive place in the global community as a fair-minded people with a successful economy, open to trade, open to investment, and open to other people migrating to our country. The economic success has been hard won by New Zealanders, and it cannot be taken for granted. As some of you may know, I was brought up in Southland on a farm, a place where hard work and skills were respected more than profit, and where no one could do it all on their own. I got my politics around our large dining table as we grew up, and I got it from my mother, who ran a farm, raised 12 children, and was a serial community and political activist. By the early 1980s, I was a new, keen and highly indebted young farmer. Interest rates were around 17%. Costs were being held down by wage and price freezes. That wasn't sustainable, and just papered over the economic problems that had been building up for a number of years. The economy had to be restructured, and it was. My community was hit hard as farm subsidies were wiped out very quickly. I made lots of financial and farm management mistakes, but with the help of family and a lot of hard work, we just stayed on our feet. And of course, many New Zealand families at that time had similar experiences in other industries, where jobs were lost and they struggled to rethink where they fitted in a country that had changed suddenly and dramatically. We thought the world owed us a living. It didn't. I learned then that businesses and families in our small trading country need to continuously adapt in small steps, and that government should back Kiwis to do just that, to continuously adapt, focusing on resilience and aspiration rather than fear and isolation. Hiding from economic reality then required drastic and damaging change, and would do so again if we followed the same path. So this has been the guiding philosophy behind the National-led government's approach to economic management over the past 8 years, and it has delivered the strong economy we have now. As a new MP in 1990, I saw the deep-seated resilience of our rural families and communities as they rebuilt their skills and their confidence. I saw the same qualities in the big city when I married into a Samoan Italian family. I must admit, the scruffy farm worker who turned up from Southland on the arm of the eldest and much prized daughter wasn't quite what Mary's parents had in mind as a son-in-law, although I think it's come right in the last 2 months. They were busy with several jobs, raising their own very large family. From them, I saw the grit and determination that it takes to feed and educate a large family, own a home, and win respect when starting afresh in a new country. Mary and I have raised 6 children of our own, and along with hundreds of families we've met through school, through church, through dozens of sports teams, and of course our many relatives. We've shared the experience of working many jobs, multiple jobs, getting everyone everywhere on time, finding time to spend with the children and with each other, and for enough sleep, as well as answering the hardest question of all every day: what's for tea and who's going to cook it? So these people who shaped my life are resilient and capable. And I'm proud that on the other side of the globe, from the European capitals I visited a few weeks ago, New Zealanders have built a cohesive and globally competitive country that can provide valuable lessons to the rest of the world. In recent years, New Zealand's used this capacity to deal with the biggest financial crisis since the Great Depression. We've dealt with devastating earthquakes and just another one a few months ago, and we've made significant progress on deep-seated and treaty-related issues. We now have a dynamic and diversified export sector, sound government finances, low unemployment, and thousands of new jobs. So people are voting with their feet. More New Zealanders are staying home, more tourists want to visit us, and more people want to come and live here. The outlook remains positive, and the economy continues to grow, with over 130,000 jobs created in the last year. Average wages are expected to keep rising and reach $66,000 a year by 2021. That means more opportunities for our kids to get jobs and more money in people's pockets. The global economy is looking a bit better than last year, despite the flow of news about political instability, with improving prospects in Europe and in the US. However, the political instability means there can be no room for complacency. In this environment, I believe the biggest threat to New Zealand's economic outlook is disruption of the international system of open trade. Under my leadership, New Zealand will continue to advocate for free trade and aim to execute high-quality trade agreements, because we've learnt that when we open doors for our exporters, they can beat the best in the world. They walk through those doors and create jobs and opportunities for New Zealanders. Our immediate challenges at home are what I call the positive challenges of growth. The government is building the roads, schools and houses needed to support our growing communities. We're providing the public services and the infrastructure needed by a successful, growing, modern economy. And there's so much more to do. The whole point of building a strong economy is to improve the lives of all New Zealanders. If we can stay on course, if we can build on the progress we've already made, we have the best opportunity in decades to make sustainable choices that are positive for our country. Choices that deliver better incomes to our families, safer communities, and provide better public services for everyone. Now, as Prime Minister, I want to see people rewarded for their hard work and enterprise. Business, farms, entrepreneurs across New Zealand are the engines of growth in our country, as are the people who work in those enterprises every day. So we'll continue to back people who take risks and invest to create new jobs and new businesses. We'll back the hard-working people who get up early in the morning to milk the cows or catch the bus to work so that they can raise their families. And we'll back the people who bravely leave behind welfare dependency to move into work, or who work so hard to manage their health issues or disability so that they can live independently. I believe in the capacity of all New Zealanders to improve their lives in some way, large or small, and I believe in the generosity of this country to help them do it. Here's what I mean. Last year I visited Kaiti School in Gisborne, where many of the children come from low-income families. I saw inspired teachers signing up parents, mostly young mums, to the local iwi savings scheme through their contact with the school. I met a 5-year-old who presented me with a business plan for selling toffee apples at the school gala. He patiently and shyly explained to me his product, his customers, and his marketing. Now, if we accept the normal assumptions, then that young Māori boy hasn't got much chance. But what I saw in his eyes and in the teachers supporting him will change his life. Through my extensive family and many years as a local MP, I've seen hundreds of examples of suffering and loss of hope turned around by quiet heroism in our communities, our families, our schools, and our public services. It never happens without the hope of one person for another. I've also seen lives blighted by poor public services, bad decisions, neglect, and bureaucratic inertia. A well-intentioned public service on its own is no guarantee of success. We have to be better at finding and helping people to fan the small flames of hope. This government is committed to doing that. We've developed a better understanding of the needs of people who rely on us most. Public servants can now see the lifelong benefits of intervening early to help those in need and the lifelong costs when that doesn't happen. We know, for example, that a teen parent on welfare will spend on average 17 years on a benefit at a cost in today's dollars of just under $300,000. There is a group of around 1,000 5-year-olds each year who in later life are far more likely to commit crime, be on a benefit or go to jail, and far less likely to succeed at school. Left alone, if nothing changes, each of these children will cost taxpayers an average of around $270,000 over the next 30 years, with some of them costing $1 million. Imagine how much misery that represents. We will spend time and money now to change the course of their lives. Because for too long, governments have serviced misery rather than investing to help people change their lives up front. Some New Zealanders need ongoing support to help them lead a decent life, and they should have as much choice as possible in how that happens. But there are many more who will benefit from smart, lighter-handed assistance and then move on. It seems pretty basic to me that if you are spending billions of dollars in social programs and health, education, welfare, law and order, housing, then that spending should be working for the people it's aimed at. We should actually be achieving something. Otherwise, we're wasting hard-earned taxpayers' money and messing with the lives of people who thought they could rely on us. So now the government publishes results every 6 months to show what we are achieving, what is being accomplished by all those people who work with us. You see, spending more public money is not in itself an achievement. Real achievement is reducing welfare dependency. Real achievement is getting better results for our kids in school. And real achievement is preventing rheumatic fever and reducing emergency department waiting times. Real achievement is changing lives. This approach, which we call social investment, is showing promising results. There are now over 50,000 fewer children living in a benefit-dependent household than there were in 2011. 50,000 fewer children in a benefit-dependent household. The number of sole parents on a benefit is the lowest since 1988, almost 30 years ago. Now, my government will be willing to take the risk of trying new ways to help those most in need. Some new services we try may not work. Others, of course, may be very successful. Other new ideas may be opposed by the existing providers of services. In election years, some will say the answer is always more money. If that were true, we would have no social problems because we've been increasing funding for decades. The recent rise in the prison population confirms we need to do better. We have made some progress in breaking the cycle of welfare dependency, child abuse, low education levels and escalating criminal offending, a cycle that is often intergenerational, trapping generations of families. But it is a long job. There remains a small number of people who have a disproportionate impact on the safety of our communities. Too many people in prison and on community sentences are regulars in the government system, and today I want to address that particular issue. This government's policing excellence and prevention first programs have focused on reducing crime and preventing reoffending. These programs contributed to a 20% reduction in crime between 2009 and 2014. They improved public confidence in the police, and they drove productivity gains that freed up the equivalent of more than 350 extra frontline officers. More recently, we've set challenging targets to reduce violent crime, youth crime and reoffending. And we've made it harder for violent reoffenders to get bail, and we've sharpened our focus on preventing what is still far too much family violence. And we're using our social investment tools to better understand the people who most need intervention and identify what will actually make a difference and enable them to lead better lives. We've driven government agencies to address the drivers of dysfunction rather than just responding to the symptoms. Because preventing crime often requires intervention not just from police, but from education or housing agencies or social welfare, for example. Here's a surprising fact. The most common age of an apprehended burglar last year was 16. That's right, just 16. Should be still at school. So we need to push harder to build on the systems we already have to keep every young person on a track that avoids first offending, like burglary, and prevents them moving on to even more serious crime. But the police front line need more time and resource to dedicate to crime prevention and working with other agencies at the same time as meeting the higher demand for dealing with serious crime now. Although recorded crime has fallen since 2009, overall demand for the police has recently increased. And that's down to the complexity and time-consuming nature of cases such as family violence, child abuse, sexual assault, because reporting of these crimes is increasing. In addition, recorded crime has begun to rise over the last 2 years, particularly burglaries, robberies and assaults. As I've said earlier, the government is prepared to invest up front with programs that will tackle these complex issues and make a positive difference to communities. We're committed to delivering better public services for a growing country. So today I'm announcing a $503 million investment in police and the wider justice sector to reduce crime, prevent it in the future and keep our communities safe. This Safer Community package has 3 parts. First, targeting and catching offenders. Second, preventing crime and reducing victimisation. And third, delivering a more responsive police service. This significant taxpayer investment comes with a range of challenging performance targets for the police. They include higher attendance at home burglaries, seizing more assets from organised crime, reducing deaths from family violence, and reducing reoffending by Māori. Meeting these targets won't be easy, but we're not here to shy away from the hard issues of making change in our community. Safer Communities provides funding for over 1,100 additional police staff, of whom 880 will be sworn officers. This will increase the number of sworn officers to nearly 9,800 by June 2021, and the number of non-sworn staff to over 3,200. That's a 10% increase in the size of the police force over the next 4 years. The package includes a new national 24/7 phone number for non-emergencies, more staff for up to 20 rural and regional police stations so that 95% of the population lives within 25 kilometres of a 24/7 police presence. More specialist investigators for child protection, sexual assault, family violence and other serious crime. Additional resources to deal with burglaries, youth offending and other community crimes. More officers to target organised crime, and around-the-clock capability for the Police Eagle helicopter. All police districts will receive extra officers, with police deciding how many will go where based on need. We are unashamedly targeting offenders to ensure they are off our streets by providing additional resources for police to resolve more crime, target criminal gangs and target organised crime. We're also providing additional resources to address the underlying drivers of crime through preventative work by the police, particularly with other agencies, and rehabilitation for prisoners. This large investment is possible only because of New Zealanders' hard work to build a strong economy, backed by the government's plan to create economic opportunities and get our books back in order. While the increase in police numbers is important, what really matters is ensuring it delivers results for the community, a safer community now and into the future. It's about doing things smarter. Here's what I mean. Last year I visited Palmerston North and was told about a family that the police had visited 87 times for family violence call-outs in the previous year. 87 times. So rather than continue to visit that house every couple of days, social service agencies and the police got together and identified one auntie that the father would listen to. And they worked with her to support the family. The following year, those 87 call-outs dropped to 1. And I was fortunate to see a video of the father explaining why that had happened. So that's what I mean about doing things smarter. Delivering better public services for a growing country is all about investing where it's needed and working smarter and being more accountable for results. In weighing up promises by political parties this year, and I expect there will be some, I challenge you to look behind the big dollar figure sound bites. I want you to ask whether the policy sets out exactly how it will improve people's lives, change people's lives, or whether it's just taking the easy option of trying to look good by throwing more money at a problem. The government's been working on the Safer Communities package since the middle of last year, and I want to acknowledge the work and strong advocacy of former Police Minister Judith Collins, as well as that of the new Minister Paula Bennett. Ladies and gentlemen, on September the 23rd, I will ask New Zealanders for the privilege of leading our country for the next 3 years, and I'm excited by that prospect. National will go into the election with a positive and ambitious program that will back New Zealanders to succeed. Over the coming months, I look forward to setting out the next steps in that plan. We have a strong economy, we have stable leadership, we have sound government's finances, and that's why today we've been able to make every community safer. Thank you.
Awesome. So, to deliver an official vote of thanks to the Prime Minister, please welcome to the stage Mr. Lyle Irwin. Lyle is partner at RSM New Zealand, international accountants delivering on a personal level. Over to you.
Testing 1, 2, testing.
Got to compete.
Stuck in soft all the time working. Yeah, I know.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're very pleased to be here to be announcing over 1,100 police staff, 880 uniformed, and a $500 million package. It's all part of our commitment to better public services in a growing country and working smarter. Any questions?
Is this an acknowledgement that law and order, that crime has risen under your watch?
Well, as I pointed out in the speech, it had been dropping. Some of the serious crimes risen more recently. The police have been going through big changes in how they operate so that they can contribute to preventing crime in the future, understand their costs, and so it's the right time to commit resource to keep ahead of any further rise in crime. Bearing in mind that some of it is flushing out issues we haven't dealt with well before, like family violence. I mean, there's more of it because it's taken more seriously, it's dealt with in a more sophisticated way, but there's an awful lot of it out there.
But this is an admission, isn't it, that serious crime has risen under your government?
Well, it's not an admission, it's simply pointing out, as I did in the speech, it's picked up a bit lately, so it is the time to get on top of the serious crime problems, deal with them better, and also keep resources focused on preventing more of it in the future.
I mean, we still have 15% less recorded crime now than we did in 2011. Yeah, so yes, some crime has gone up, but actually we're still tracking ahead. We have had a population increase, and so this is due to that as well.
Yeah, but when you say things have picked up, what you're saying is picked up are serious robberies and serious assaults. You know, crimes on the rise, and people are worried about it.
They are worried about it, and that's one of the reasons we've taken action.
Is it a response? I mean, Labor has already promised it, are you just responding to their promise?
No, we're not. In the first place, I don't think they have a clue what they do with them, and there's no description of what the policy is. I mean, we've been working on this since the last budget. In the last budget, there was a big injection of cash into the police for pay rises. And then after the budget started on picking up where the police were, where they fitted into the social investment framework, seeing what's happening with the demand. There's a lot of detailed analysis about that, which the Minister can tell you about, and this is the package that's responding to it.
How much is a factor? How much is the rising population growth a factor in in your policy response and likely policy responses, are you having to deal with the fact that you've underfunded for a rising population?
No, we haven't underfunded, but we have to increase funding as the population rises. And bear in mind that for most of the demographics we look at, you've got increases in population that weren't forecast. And even just in the last couple of weeks, there's still a net inflow from Australia, whereas 4 years ago there was a net outflow of 39,000. So we're now adjusting expectations across the board to the fact that the population is growing at a clip and we need to invest in public services.
The public right to be a little bit cynical with they're getting this now an election year after 2 or 3 years when this population growth has been coming on board and you've been struggling to get a surplus. They might be cynical about that.
No, particularly if when they see all the analysis that sits in behind this. I mean, this is just part of a longer process that's been going on with the police as well as other public services, where they've had to get a much better understanding of where they create value, what their costs are, where they're putting their resource, and the police leadership have done a great job of that over the last 2 or 3 years, and that's why I'm quite confident, having been part of that process, that you can put this substantial resource, 500 million, over 1,100 staff in there over the next 4 years and get some real performance out of it.
What percentage of the 503 million was actually pre-announced as part of the family violence package last year? How much is new?
That was just for 66 officers. That was pre-announced at the end of last year, and it's a very small percentage of that 388 that is for police.
So just looking.
So it's 66 of the 880.
So just looking at the rise in serious crime, the Prime Minister, do you blame the population growth? Do you blame some of the rise in serious crime on population growth?
Oh, some of it. Well, look, the Minister and her officials spend a lot of time trying to understand what's going on there.
Yeah. Is population growth behind?
Well, population growth, you've got more policing needed, more response to emergencies and everything else. When it comes to our serious crime, there's no two ways about it that we're investing 80 of these officers and a good proportion of those non-sworn, who are usually very specialists in pretty intensive areas, as in forensic analysis and investigations and things, into organised crime and our gangs. And as you've seen, and when you hear the Prime Minister talking about the average age of a 16-year-old, burglar, they don't come from blessed families where they're well and truly loved and looked after. They often come from those kinds of organised crime families. So we have seen an increase there, and it's been of a concern to the police. And to address that, it takes more hours and it takes more resource, and that's why we're putting it in now. I do want to just also touch on the fact that in the last 8 years, we saw under this government an influx of 600 police that came in 2009, and then you've also seen that investment in mobile technology and others, that in the Prime Minister's speech that he acknowledged the 354 hours, the police effectively, that have been gained from that advantage of mobile technology. So that's nearly 1,000 extra police in the last 8 years. Now we're doing this over the next 4 that keeps us up with what's happening in our communities, keeping them safer and addressing a population increase.
Could the problem here not be the growing gap between the haves and the have-nots that leads to this sort of crime?
Well, look, I wouldn't agree with that, partly because the gap's not growing, and also because as the police intelligence and analysis is showing, you've got, as I said in the speech, a smaller group of people who are having a disproportionate impact on the safety of the community, and they've got better tools for dealing with it, which is why we can put in this very large investment.
So,
can you confirm that this announcement was the one that Judith Collins and John P would have been making at the start of this year? Or, when did you decide to do this?
Oh, well, when I became Prime Minister.
It wasn't already in train for this announcement for the State of the Nation speech?
Oh, there was already plenty of work going on, but any government or Prime Minister gets to make a decision within a reasonable time of the State of the Nation about what's in it. So it was because of all the work that's been done, it was an easy choice.
Because Judith Collins said publicly at the end of last year that she'd been trying to get these police since July. She said that on the Paul Henry show. So Judith Collins has gone public and said she was trying to get these police in July last year. Like, why are the New Zealand public waiting with crimes rising? Like, why do we have to wait?
Well, as I explained, in the last budget there was a big contribution of funding to the police. So they couldn't get the whole budget, but they got a significant chunk for pay, which they, has to be funded. And then the work pretty much started after that over the, the police strategy and how it goes. And these things take a while. I mean, there's a lot of to get the value out of 500 million and 1,100 people. Everyone needs to know what they're doing and why. And the Minister has done a great job, in my view, of putting performance requirements on the police which relate to what the community want to see, like response time to burglaries.
But why didn't you just give them when Judith Collins asked for them in July? Like, why?
Oh, because there was no plan, no performance targets. It was the Minister and the police saying, look, our demand's rising, but they hadn't, it takes time to put together a plan about what you're actually going to do about it, particularly when you're looking at over 3 or 4 years.
Has the police college going to give any more resourcing to actually train these new officers, given they'll be starting in July?
Yeah, they're very confident that they can manage this over 4 years, but that is why they wanted 4 years, because of the recruitment process as well and how that needs to happen. So of this, a part of the cost of those, particularly the 500 officers, also goes to the police college to ensure they can get trained correctly.
But the capacity as such won't be increased from what you've got now, apart from the extra funding that comes with the new officers?
I believe not, but the Commissioner will be now looking at all of those details as they need to, but I believe they're able to do it with what they've got in the capacity, but they need that time to do it.
So the Police Commissioner is going to speak afterwards. Is it appropriate to involve him in what is your first election year's speech, or sort of custom speech?
That's kind of his choice, but to be blunt with the police, it is a lot more independent than any agency I've worked with. When it comes to the operations of where these police will be, the kind of duties that they will be doing, I would have thought there'd be a strong public interest in that, and that would be something very much for the Commissioner to answer and not for us as politicians.
But as Minister, would you be happy if he went along to a Labor announcement about police? Would you be fine with that?
Well, particularly, I would imagine that if Labor government are making this sort of announcement, that it would be exactly the same.
But now, if they, because
well, it's very different than someone making an announcement and then someone actually doing it, which is what this government is. I imagine the public have got questions about where these police will be, what they'll actually be doing, and how that will be managed. There is a very clear separation when it comes to the police and the Minister, and it's probably more appropriate for him to answer those questions.
You wouldn't want him going to a Labor or...
Well, he's independent, so he can go wherever he likes.
You'd be happy if he wants to?
He's able to go wherever he likes.
Prime Minister, can I ask you a question on a different topic? This is for one of our other reporters. The mayors of the Far North, Rotorua and Gisborne came to you when you were Finance Minister and said that they wanted new rules for social policy in the area, basically support for them. Is that something that you've looked at now as Prime Minister, and is that something you would consider?
Yes, in fact, there's some detailed initiatives in place which the Deputy Prime Minister initiated and is overseeing, designed to test exactly that idea. And she can explain, but they're operating in Gisborne, South Auckland and Northland, and certainly as Prime Minister I'm keen to see progress on it, because a lot of the hard issues around improving services are quite detailed and local.
Minister, is that something that you would look to extend to the Far North and Rotorua as well, if this goes well in Gisborne?
Yeah, so it is in the Far North. It's a place-based initiative, if you like. So we're really passionate taking that social investment and then ensuring there's action actually on the ground and in our communities. Otherwise, it's great ideas, it's great data, it's all of that, but it's actually how that translates to real people's lives and it making a difference in them. So what part of that is within the social investment and those that bringing the ability to move funding around, the mandate closer to the ground, because too much of it is held in Wellington. So we'll extend it as we know the success of it, but it's using all of that data and bringing it really to the base, and then them able to move resources for the need of that vulnerable family instead of having to rush back to Wellington or argue amongst agencies themselves.
Prime Minister and Minister, do you have sympathy or see a need for police officers who want to live in Auckland where living costs are so high. In terms of keeping the police force strong in Auckland, do you see, both of you, a need for some kind of an Auckland allowance for police officers?
It's not something we're looking at the moment. That would have to be much broader than just the police if we were, and I suppose I've got my state services hat on there and saying, you know, that would really be looking at over 100,000 public servants that are, you know, working in different ways and contexts. I would say that we also have trouble attracting people to smaller rural towns at times, and that can be really quite difficult policing, although very different. And equally with teachers and doctors and health professionals, it may be different, the actual what comes down to it, but to actually be front loading is a very big call, because then you're almost making Auckland more attractive than some other areas, and there's no doubt about it that for all of those professions there's a need throughout New Zealand.
So Prime Minister, is that off the table then, an Auckland allowance? Is that just not?
Well, as the Minister said, we're not considering.
And one final question, Prime Minister. Peter Thiel, you did meet with him. Where was that? What happened? What was it about?
Well, I'm told I met with him in 2010, I think, in my office. I don't recall the details of the discussion.
So he came up to your Beehive office. What did he talk about?
Well, look, as I said, I can't recall the details of the discussion, but I often, in fact, I go out of my way to find lateral thinkers, particularly around technology and data-related issues, and I've been fortunate to meet with dozens of them over the years, including others who've come here from the west coast of the US. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if the discussion was about our interests in digitalising government, better use of data, what they can contribute to helping us with that.
You talked a lot in your speech about yourself and your background and your history. How important is personality in this campaign going to be? Do you believe it will be a factor?
Look, I think in the end the campaign swings on the issues that matter to households and families and people getting up and going to work. When you're a new Prime Minister, despite the fact that I've been in public life for a while, it's been, you know, more recently in the finance portfolio, and I've just had a lot of people either ask me about my background or be surprised when they find out things like that I've got some children, or find out things like that I've been to a school as a parent, and also questions about my wife Mary. So I thought, State of the Nation speech, you know, a bit of material that explains my background and motivations, but that's just background. You know, what matters to people today is whether they're going to feel safer in their communities. And that's what we're here for.
What's the difference between the Bill English of 2002 and the Bill English of 2017?
It's a bit like asking what's the difference between the Barry Soper of 2000.
But there has to be a difference because the public did reject your bid to become Prime Minister in 2002.
Oh, look, I think that the main difference is the circumstances, actually. Being in a successful government rather than unsuccessful opposition. And I must say the team, the team of, you know, with Paula and Stephen and the caucus and the National Party volunteer organisation, it's just all in remarkably better shape than 2002.
What was the vibe?
How will Māori benefit under your leadership?
Sorry?
How will Māori benefit under your leadership?
Oh, look, I think they'll certainly benefit more under us than under the other parties who tend to be patronising and think big government's answering to all their problems, whereas we're going to be focusing on enterprise, on aspiration, on rebuilding families, and on the kind of partnership required to do that. They also benefit directly from the kind of policies that we're announcing today. Māori are among the most re-victimised in the whole country. While we talk a lot about the disproportional, say, number of Māori in prison, they are vastly disproportional among victims. And any step we can take, like a big investment and 1,100 more police staff, is going to help them feel safer, and I think that'll matter to a lot of them.
Do you support Te Reo Māori to be taught in schools throughout Aotearoa?
Oh, it is taught. We don't support compulsion, but it's great to see that it's taught and used by many school children.
Prime Minister, just before you go, What do you think the vibe was like in that?
And here, well, it wasn't about the vibe, it was about the policy, and the policy was really good.
Can you just explain your National Party logo? What's up with the retro throwback?
Oh, look, it's just a refreshment by the party, start of election year. You'll be seeing a bit of it.
Is it a
Thanks very
blue?
much.
Is it a lighter blue?
Colin Gray blue?
Thank you.